So I'm here today to talk about the handloom. And you've heard the story of the emperor's new clothes. The story goes that there was a country that made the best cloth in the world. It made that cloth in vast quantities, enough of it to clothe everyone in the country, with enough left over to send to many other countries. And the other countries paid for that cloth in gold and silver, making that weaving country one of the richest countries in the world. The kings of that country wore fancy versions of that cloth. The poor people of the country wore plain versions of the same. All the people, the fishermen and farmers, the milkmaids and shepherds, the merchants and governors, all wore versions of the cloth specially made for them. One day, some clever swindlers came to that country and sought an audience with the emperor. "Your Majesty," they said, "the clothes you wear are not good enough for you. How can you wear the same as what the fishermen and farmers of your country wear? Not only that, there are so many different kinds of cloth made in your country that it is confusing. The cloth made in your country lasts for too long. It is too soft. It is too comfortable. When people wear that cloth, they don't feel like working. Don't you know that the world is changing, and now things made by machine are the fashion? Cloth made by machine wears out much sooner. It is not as soft. Mass-produced cloth is the same everywhere, so everyone looks alike. It may be boring, but this is modernity. The fantastic thing about this new way of making cloth," they said, "is that it is highly profitable for the owners of the machines. It's silly to make simple wooden loops from a bewildering variety of cottons. Our expensive and complicated machines that mass-produce cloth in factories and need one and only one kind of cotton are a much better bet. This advantage can be seen only by intelligent people like us. To all others, it is invisible," they said. The emperor fell for this story and shelled out sackfuls of gold and shipfuls of silver for the machines and for the cloth made from them. The conmen dressed the emperor in their machine-made cloth, all the time telling him how wonderful the new clothes were and how he now looked like a real emperor. And for the next 200 years, the people of that country waited for someone to say, "That cloth is rubbish. The cloth we made was much, much better." They're still waiting. That fairy tale is the story of cotton cloth in India. As in the fairy tale, India made enough cotton cloth to clothe rich and poor in the whole subcontinent, and so much left over for export that it was said to clothe the world. The world paid for this cloth in gold and silver, which poured into India, not just into the pockets of the Adanis and the Ambanis, but in the hands of the millions of cotton farmers who grew the cotton, the women who spun the yarn, and the weavers who wove the cloth. India grew rich from its export, so rich that Europeans flocked to India to make money for themselves, to shake the pagoda tree, as it was said. Today I'm going to remind you of the many advantages of weaving on the handloom. I want to suggest to you that we should look at the handloom not as an outmoded relic of the past, but as a low-carbon production technology for the energy-stressed future. In my talk, I'll tell you about the grim reality of cotton yarn spinning in India today, which Sam, I think, was hinting at, and what a dreadful fate awaits it. I will also point out a possible brighter future, a possible, affordable, and rational future in which we safeguard the Indian cotton textile industry and our rural livelihoods. For much of my life, I've been fascinated by the story of cotton and cotton cloth making in India. I've spent the last 24 years working in this field. I'm part of a small group of people who have been puzzling over the strange trajectory of the indigenous cotton textile industry of India during more than 20 years of research, combined with active involvement with handlooms. And I find that the reality is as fairy tale. I'll tell the story of the different bits of this industry by jumping from country to country and century to century, backwards and forwards, because that's the way the story makes sense. In between, we'll hear some voices from history. And I'll end with a possible roadmap for the future, and I hope you all will have comments to add. Simply put, India today is actively decimating a sensible, energy-efficient, low-carbon way of weaving cotton cloth on the handloom